to the arena. My name is Greg Sindelar, and today I have the great pleasure to be with my brother in Christ, my good friend, Senator Tan Parker. Senator Parker, thank you for being with us today.
Well, what an honor to be with you, brother. Thanks for having me. What a treat to be on your show. What a treat.
Well, we'll see if you feel that way when we get to the end.
I know I feel good about it. Either way, whatever happens.
This won't be, this isn't like being on 60 Minutes. So I think we'll be okay. Well, Tan, let's start. I think one of the most important things for people to understand is, why do you do this? Like, why are you in the arena? Why do you run for office? We were talking before we started. I don't understand why people want to run for office. It's really difficult. It gets really personal. It gets really nasty. Lieutenant Governor's talking today about how nasty some of these races get, even in primaries, right? And so tell me a little bit about your story, where you grew up, and what galvanized you to say, you know what, I want to run for office.
Well, Greg, first of all, thank you for the question and the platform to talk about these issues. And look, for me and my wife, Beth, it's really been about trying to give back and make a difference. We really viewed our time in service, candidly, to the legislature as really being a ministry, trying to make a difference, right? At the end of the day, I focus on lots of policy areas. I cover lots of different things, but the things that will always most passionately move me are the things that affect human beings, that protect fragile populations, that protect our babies, that protect life, protect core values of faith and family, and making certain that we protect the excellence that is Texas.
Yeah.
And so for me, I got involved in politics as a kid. I remember Ronald Reagan's election, hard to comprehend, 1980. I was the oldest of four kids. My parents were out for the night, and I was the oldest of four. My brothers and sisters had fallen asleep. The babysitter had fallen asleep. And I was still awake and glued to the television. My parents trying to figure out what was going on, because I was obsessed and worried at 8 years old about why John Anderson was doing so well, and if John Anderson was going to impact President Reagan winning the election. And so I got it very early in my blood, so to speak, right? As a
Just
kid.
imagine you with like a little chalkboard, like doing all the numbers.
And so literally, here I am, a little kid under 10 years old and having those kind of worries, right, about John Anderson and the independent vote. And so, in all seriousness, I mean, that really kind of set a tone for me as a kid. And then I was around a family that was very civically minded, entrepreneurial, and so we grew up having conversations around the dining table, right, the kitchen table, around birthdays and Easter and Christmas and so forth, about all kinds of free market, free enterprise issues, talking about small business, talking about what's going on in society. And all that really shaped me. And so when I was a kid in high school, I was 16 years old, kind of a fun story. I started calling a woman by the name of Jean Campbell. And Jean was the chief of staff effectively of Dick Armey, who was a new member of the United States House of Representatives. So I'm a 16-year-old kid in Fort Worth going to high school. And I literally called and I said, well, I was at Nolan in Fort Worth.
Oh, yeah, Nolan Catholic. There you go.
And so there I was in high school. And so I called this poor lady named Jean Campbell. I didn't know her from Adam. And I just called and called and called. And I think finally she said, Dick, get out there to this school. This kid's never going to stop. And so I started the first teenage Republican club at 16. There in Tarrant County.
You're like Alex Keaton.
It was I don't know about that, but it was a Tan Parker version of that, right? It was a special thing, and I went to the teachers.
Just dated us. No one else knows.
No one knows who that is, probably. But I went where I had relationships, Greg, which was the history teacher and the economics teacher. And they gave us extra credit for our next test or quiz. And we packed the auditorium to have Dick Armey come and speak. And that really launched my Republican club there for the high school kids, teenage kids in Tarrant County. And I started mobilizing from there. And I started mobilizing high school kids. And then in college, I became very involved in college Republicans and was the chair of the state college Republicans for Texas, all the chapters around the state. And I had the honor as a young guy in my business life. I came out of all that experience in grad school. And I knew I wanted to serve in some capacity, but I knew I needed to come from the business world. And so I was appointed as a young guy by Governor Perry to chair a board for Texas and economic development. And then by God's grace, one day I got a call that there was an open primary, if you will, in Denton County. And that if I ever wanted to run for office, I had all these friends calling me. It was my time to do it. And so I called my wife immediately. That night we spoke and prayed about it. And within 24 hours, my wife's a saint and said, honey, let's do it. And we were all in. It was a 5-way Republican primary. And here we are all these years later. So what an honor to have done it and served Texas in these capacities in the House and now, of course, in the Texas Senate.
Yeah, well, and you are, you've done really remarkable. I have to ask, though, because I think everyone that's in your position needs a spouse that's all in with them.
Absolutely.
How's your wife? Your wife still feeling really good about this?
My wife is the biggest saint. She's amazing. I mean, she's all in 100%. Whenever we can support the cause, she's always there. Whatever we can do to help. And,
maybe don't ask her like towards the end of May in session years.
Well, I think every member will tell you their whole family gets strained towards the end of the session, right?
That's right.
Everybody wants us home, right? We need to be home, and that's really the balance and the beauty of the legislative process in Texas is that we have that balance.
Yeah.
That we're able to be citizen lawmakers, that we maintain our identity as business people or professional physicians or educators or first responders, whatever it is, while at the same time serving in the legislature and making certain that our families know they're always our priority. And so that's why I've been very fortunate over the years when the girls were young to be able to get back home quickly to Flower Mound whenever I could. I didn't have serious business to be done to make certain that we made our focus on the family and spending time with them. But my wife, my daughters, my parents, the broader family have all been very supportive, and that it takes the whole family to really support you when you're out there running for office. Yeah,
I think that's what I've learned as I've gotten to know you and other elected officials. Is it is truly a family affair, and it's kind of amazing. You see everyone pitch in, and you see whole families out there block walking and at the polls and stuff like that. It's what I think. It's the nice part about what you do, because it's a lot of good time.
Some of my best memories in life are going door to door, particularly with my kids when they were little.
It's a good civics lesson for them.
It's the ultimate civics lesson. I mean, they would meet strangers and talk about all kinds of issues. They'd meet veterans of World War II or Vietnam vets, and they would take us in their home and have a cup of tea and visit. It was incredible. I mean, it's a priceless experience for kids to really have that, I think.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Well, so tell me a little bit about your district. I'm very familiar with it. I grew up on the other side of Grapevine Lake and Grapevine Colleyville, but it has been a burgeoning area of the DFW Metroplex for many years. Tell me a little bit about what encompasses your district, and also kind of where you see some of the most important issues for your constituents.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I've got an incredible district, Senate District 12. It is a good piece of Dallas County. So starting in Dallas County, I've got Highland Park and University Park and Preston Hollow. I've got Carrollton and Farmers Branch and Addison and Capel and a good bit of Las Colinas and parts of Dallas itself and North Dallas. Then I go into Tarrant County, and I've got all of Grapevine, so they're in your old stomping grounds. There I've got, in addition to that, I've got Colleyville, I've got northern South Lake and northern West Lake, I've got Trophy Club, I've got parts of northern Fort Worth going up around the Alliance Corridor area, and then the Denton County piece, call it from DFW north. I've got huge pieces of Denton County, which is, of course, where I was so blessed to represent for years as a state rep in the House. And so we've got Flower Mound and Louisville and Argyle and Bartonville and Ponder and all those great communities that go all the way up to Denton, and then north of Denton actually up to Sanger. So for folks that are familiar with Sanger.
Very familiar.
And then from Fort Worth, I go west into Wise County, which is an incredible place. So many incredible patriots out there. And that's Decatur and Rome and Boyd and Lake Bridgeport and Runaway Bay, right? So it's a district unlike anything else. It's the economic engine, really, for the state and for the country. It's a huge piece of our punching power economically as a state. And, incredibly innovative, great entrepreneurs, great companies, great academic institutions. It's all right there in SD 12, right?
It is amazing to me to think that, because I'm familiar with Boyd and Bridgeport, Texas, that it's in the same district as Preston Hollow. It could not be more different.
It's very, very different, right? Very different. But you know what they all have in common? They're all Texans.
That's right.
And they all care about a better and brighter future and to protect Texas, the Texas that we love.
Yeah,
right?
I love that. I love that. So when you're talking to your constituents, what are the issues that you hear about most? Like, what are the things that are really concerning them?
Well, look, no question about it. Constituents right now are worried about the cost of living. The Biden spending, obviously, during that period just made it so difficult for American families with this horrific inflationary spending. And so it's impacting them in big ways. And so, therefore, as a result, Texas needs to be a hedge against all of that horrific Biden-era policy. And of course, President Trump and our leadership in Washington now, Republican leadership, are working to address all those issues as well. But Texas works to also be a hedge, if you will, a protection against all that kind of reckless spending. And so, we're doing everything in our power to continue to address issues like property tax relief, right? We've done a lot with property tax relief the last several sessions. This last time around, when you think about the fact we took the homestead exemption for everybody under 65 to 140,000, and then if you're 65 or above to 200,000. I mean, those are real dollars for real people that are out there working hard, and we got to do more. Both Governor Abbott and Governor Patrick are all, along with the Speaker, we're all in agreement on having to tackle property tax relief and do even more. We need to do that. We need to address other issues around affordability. We're worried about the cost of insurance, right? But whether you're talking about your home insurance or your auto insurance or healthcare insurance, those are all things that people are very focused on that we've got to bring answers and solutions to and tackle head on.
Yeah.
And, beyond that, of course, they want to make sure that beyond making certain that we bring down the cost of living in every way that we possibly can, they want to make certain that they have an environment that is the best place to live and work and play and raise a family and to grow a business. They want to know they got great schools, and feel very confident that we've got phenomenal public schools, phenomenal private schools. We've got a great, obviously, ESA now in place that will benefit so many students to get an even better education. We got so many wonderful institutions of higher learning that want to make certain that people have opportunities to get great jobs, whether they go to a four-year school or a great community school or vocational school. We got all those kinds of things they want to focus on, and they want to care about the quality of their environment. Is the electric grid, strong and reliable? And the answer is absolutely it is. We've been working very hard the last 5 years, all of us collectively, to make certain that was resolved, to make certain that water, we're investing in the future of water, and that we're investing in things like mobility, which is a big part of the package and things that I focus on here for the session coming up, going in the interim and the next session in 2027. So these are real issues. I mean, they care about making certain that we're the best place to live and work and play. And that's what we're trying to do in every domain. We're also trying to be the best place in America where the American dream is alive and well, and where, frankly, we preserve liberty and freedom more than any other state in the nation, frankly. And that's what we're focused on doing. I think we're doing that. We need to continue to lead. We can't say because the last 20 years have been great for Texas, we've done all these great conservative things, that we can rest on our laurels. We got to continue to be aggressive and on all fronts, all these issues, right? Promoting an agenda around liberty and freedom, minimizing, obviously, regulation, minimizing the size of government, maximizing free market opportunities, while at the same time investing in these critical infrastructure items and keeping Texas strong and vibrant.
No, I think that's right. People don't like to think a lot about government, but they notice when it's not working for them, right?
100%. I mean, look, if the roads are too congested, they're not moving. If the lights aren't there when they turn on the light switch, they got real issues. And so that's when they realize that, it's nice when we don't think about government because these basic things are being handled. And that's what we need to continue to do, is to take care of the blocking and tackling, as I call it, of government. That's what these are. Only government can provide for mobility and transportation, right?
That's right.
Only government can secure our border, right? Only government can provide for safety and security, a framework for all 31 million Texans. These are critical issues, and we live in a serious time, and we've got to take it very seriously. And so, while the economic issues are number one, I think, for the people of Texas right now, as I just described, I think they also worry about, like I said, all these infrastructure issues, but they also worry about safety and security for themselves and their families. And that's why, I was blessed last session to carry Senate Bill 36, the Homeland Security Bill, that not only for the very first time in all of Texas history, we put in place border security into statute, but we also put in place a security framework to be able to protect our grid with a real security team, as well as our water systems, right, and our communication systems. So these are vitally important, and particularly given the state of play in the world today, where we are with happenings in Iran and the Middle East. It's vibrant that we protect our homeland here in Texas. And that's why I drove that Senate Bill 36. And that's why I also drove Cyber Command to be able to make certain that we're addressing all the cyber threats.
Can you expand on that? Because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because we talked a lot last session about Cyber Command, but I don't think most people understand the importance of that legislation. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, thank you. So I look at everything first and foremost from a security framework, right? And that's what I did with the bill I just described with SB 36. The Homeland Security Bill is, okay, first and foremost, what keeps me up at night is the safety for all of us, right? The families, the communities. Are we doing everything in our power to protect everyone every single day? And so that's the reason why I focused on that bill. And then when you recognize that we've addressed the physical security, then you start thinking about where are we today in an IT-enabled world where everything is IT-enabled, right? Everything is on the internet. Everything is mobile
My refrigerator
devices.
is on the internet.
Yeah, everything is.
I don't
Every
really
device.
understand why.
Your refrigerator is a device, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
right.
crazy, right? So, but the problem is, to be very candid, is that we have enemies in this world. We need to be very real about that. China, Russia, North Korea, and yes, to a lesser extent, a weakened now Iran, are doing everything in their power to hit us every day. And there's an element of domestic terrorism as well. But they are hitting our state infrastructure, all of these great agencies and all the computers that run the Department of Public Safety, that run Health and Human Services, that run the Workforce Commission, that run TxDOT, all of it. They are hitting millions and millions and millions of attacks every single week. And so, we have a choice. We could sit back and do nothing. And I said, that's unexcusable. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I know how vulnerable we are. And so the governor and I, Governor Abbott and I, were very passionate about this. Lieutenant Governor Patrick was incredibly supportive. All of our colleagues in the Senate and the House helped us drive this thing to get it done. And I think we really ended up in a very good place with an agency now that is run by a former retired admiral, that I think will give Texas a cybersecurity capability comparable to the federal government in the next couple of years, which is vitally important. It should give every Texan a peace of mind to know that their state government is actually on the job and engaged in protecting the infrastructure. And so I'm delighted that we got that done. That was a real blessing for the people of Texas. And every day since implementation, when that bill went into effect in September, we're getting safer and safer as we implement all these capabilities, in my opinion.
And I think people are realizing more and more with technological innovations, not just around AI, but you think about what could be coming down the pike with quantum computing, other things, is how vulnerable we actually are, and that we need to make sure, government's number one job is to secure liberty for its citizens.
100%.
Well, this is part of that.
100%. Without that basic structure of safety, as I talked about, every other liberty and freedom that we are so blessed to have in this state, doesn't ultimately materialize. It won't happen if we're not safe. Safety is the fundamental framework, and then all those liberties and freedoms then flow from there. And that's why we got to take it seriously. And we're now doing so much with AI as well, right? So I carry the AI bills along with another one of my colleagues, Senator Schwartner, in the Senate, and of course my colleagues, Representative Capriglione and so forth, carried in the House. But basically, these bills are just vitally important for our future. And we just got to take it seriously. And I think people recognize why this is so essential, because we have real threats. And with AI is going to demand so much more regulatory oversight, even though we have the lightest regulatory touch possible, because we want to drive entrepreneurs, because if we're not driving innovation, we're going to lose.
That's right.
I mean, because the current space race of today in 2026 is all about the quest for AI and quantum and cyber, fueled by an underlying source, which is energy. And if we're not driving in all these areas, we'll lose. We will lose. And so I want the people of the state to understand that's why my AI framework was the lightest possible touch. Protect our vulnerable citizens, protect our babies, put in place the lightest possible touch, and then go after it, because we have to innovate. President Reagan always talked about peace through strength. President Trump talks about peace through strength. But the reality is, in the 2026 world, the only way there'll be peace through strength is through technology dominance. Period. And Texas will disproportionately innovate that technology landscape across those areas going forward. That's why we have to be engaged. That's why we have to work and take these issues seriously. It all goes hand in hand.
I think you're 100% correct. And I think ultimately we'll win the race, right? Which is basically with China, but we can't take any of that for granted. And we also can't be sacrificing like our kids and all these other things on the altar of that, just to make sure we get there. And
absolutely,
But I think also an underlying important part of this is, Texas is a great place to raise a family, and it's uniquely positioned to be at the forefront of all these issues you talked about with AI and quantum and cyber and the energy. Obviously, we have all of that. But Texas is such a diverse economy, and it has really exploded in my lifetime and in your lifetime of what we actually can provide in the state. And so can you talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing on the business front to ensure that not only is it the best place to raise a family, but that everyone here can economically prosper as well? Obviously, Y'all Street is going, and we're trying to bring in people instead of setting up their businesses in Delaware. Let's bring them to Texas. So I'd love for you to talk about that.
Well, look, this is an area that I'm also passionate about, right? But you got to start with that security framework before you talk about these other fun things, right? But look, you said it so well. we have to make certain that there are jobs and opportunity that are worthy of our people.
Yep.
And that means we can't just sit back and say, well, the last 25, 30 years have been great, so automatically it'll be great going forward.
Yep.
We have to seize the future. And so as a result of that, I've been a very passionate believer that the financial services industry is one that we could grow in Texas very successfully. By and large, financial services people are conservative people. You know, they're dealing with dollars, they're dealing with common sense decisions, and I think they really fit in many ways the Texas DNA beautifully. And, you know, I was sitting back 10, 11 years ago, serving as in the Texas House, and serving as chairman of Financial Services Investments at that time, and that committee. And I recognized at that time that we needed to start focusing on these opportunities.
Yep.
And so the first thought process I had was, well, let's start with a commodities exchange. We'd start with a gold bullion depository. Why don't people know why was Tan Parker moving a gold bullion depository bill instantly when I laid it out in committee, had it laid out in committee with one of my colleagues? The reason being is that I thought we'd start with gold and move to other precious metals. Then I'd move to cotton and cattle and oil and gas futures, all these various commodities, before ultimately moving to an equities exchange. So this was my vision back in 2015. And then once we passed that legislation, it took a few years to get the comptroller's office to turn it on, so to speak, to get it up and running. And then I would make a trip once or twice a year to Wall Street to go and look for financial partners to back these commodities exchange vision that we had, candidly. And we would do that in 18 and 19. I was going up to do it in early 2020, and of course the world changed.
Yep.
And so what happened then effectively is that we had the gold bullion depository going, but then in New York, what was occurring now in COVID was he had these clowns in the New York Assembly that were going to start taxing securities transactions and transfers. Well, my God, how would a dumb thing to do? I mean, what are you doing? You're taxing people.
Yeah,
You're
that's right.
taxing their 401k.
Yep.
You're taxing their retirement. You're taxing their ability to put their kid to college. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking to do. So they started coming to talk to us in Texas about different opportunities to look at candidly opening an exchange here in Texas. They didn't move quite fast enough, to be candid, initially. And so that's why, you know, Governor Abbott did an incredible job in recruiting his good friend, Jim Lee, who's a terrific guy, to go and spearhead this effort around what we call the TXI, the Texas Stock Exchange. And what an honor it was for me to carry legislation in this package and been working on this now for 10 or 11 years to be able to create this vision that we went from a commodities exchange here, obviously, to an equities exchange. So the TXI is the most well-funded launch of a new stock exchange in American history. All the major players in finance are backing it, which is so exciting. It's going to be in the heart of Dallas. And then when that started rolling out, this series of bills, including a constitutional amendment that the people of Texas supported back last November, they supported that we're never going to tax a securities transaction or transfer. So then it sent a very clear message that Texas is open for business, and these financial services firms can invest in Texas going forward, that we're going to be the home of American finance, which just means jobs and more jobs for our people. And I couldn't be more excited about that, you know, and it will create an ecosystem over the decades to come that I think will be quite extraordinary. And because the TXI got up and running, now the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ both now have a Texas edition, which is wonderful. So we have 3 exchanges in Dallas, right? You have the New York Texas edition, the NASDAQ, and the TXI. And, you know, look, this is all about free enterprise and competition. This is spectacular. This is what it's all about. And then we put in place specifically a new environment to make it easier to incorporate in Texas, to be the very best place. As you know, all of our lives, Greg, growing up, everybody incorporates every business that you've ever done, always in Delaware. And we're going head to head. And I talk about all the time, we're going head to head against Delaware, and we're going head to head against New York. And of course, you know, in many ways, it's unfair competition with a clown now being mayor of New York City. I mean, everybody wants to get out and escape. Now, as a patriotic American, I hope enough people stay behind to fight for the survival of New York City.
That's right.
That it'll get out of this disaster, because it's going to be in the tank so badly the next couple of years, and Texas will benefit greatly. And so, you know, what will really happen, I think, over the decade is that it'll be very clear to the world and everybody in America that Texas will be the home of American finance, and New York will be playing second fiddle. And it largely will be because of the incompetence and the horrific liberal, you know, nutty policies that they've been pursuing in Albany, and obviously in the mayor's office there in New York City, coupled with the fact that Texas has been proactive. We put the best regulatory environment in the world, that we're putting great policies in place that enable businesses to succeed. We want entrepreneurs to come here and thrive, to live the American dream. I mean, the American dream is more alive in a place called Texas than any other state in this country.
Yep.
And we've got to continue to make certain that's the case for future generations. And so that's why Y'all Street matters. It's about jobs for our kids as they finish school and our grandkids and future generations of Texans to have incredible opportunities to provide for their families and to do it right here.
Yep.
And so we'll have literally every aspect of our modern society, right? You think about leading finance, you think about all the tech innovation, you think about the defense industry and securing our national security, all the new breakthrough technologies of tomorrow. You'll think about breakthroughs in biotechnology research that will be enormous discoveries for the future of mankind. And guess what? All of those things will happen at an accelerated rate in Texas because they have access to capital, access to capital in our public markets, and more early stage capital that will develop these early entrepreneurial ideas into flourishing businesses that will create opportunities and grow our tax base so that we can reduce the tax burden on families and businesses as well. And that's really what we're going for and where we're headed at the moment.
Yeah, well, and I think it's so important because, people don't appreciate that Texas could have easily gone the way of California. And we could be in a regulatory environment with, like that if we didn't have people like you, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Governor Abbott, et cetera, in office. Things could look very differently in the state. Obviously, we are blessed with a lot of natural resources, but I think the thing we're most blessed with are the people and the values that help us understand that we have a frontier attitude and people want to, they will find a way or make one. And government's job is to really just give some light structure and get out of the way.
Look, Greg, that's my view 100%, right? Is that precisely as you said, the lightest possible regulatory touch.
Yeah.
So you don't have a chaotic environment, whatever it may be, right? Sensible and smart, and then step back and let entrepreneurs drive. Let capital formation occur. Let people drive their entrepreneurial, innovative dreams. That's what powered this country now for 250 years, and it's what will power us for the next 250, and continue to make Texas really the finest place to live, not just, frankly, in my mind, in the United States, but the finest place to live and work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You think about the fact that we are the 8th largest economy in the world tonight, as we speak, number 8.
That's right.
But just literally in a matter of months, our modeling shows that we'll go from number 8 to number 7, and we'll surpass France. Think about that for a moment and what that means.
Wow.
That's not about your Texas government. That's about the incredible 31 million people that I'm blessed to represent every day and how hard they work. It's the Texas DNA. It's their work ethic. It's how passionate they fight, that they do their work so beautifully. And let me tell you, business is tough. I've been in the business world for 30 years. You've got great successes. You have disappointments. It is tough. There's nothing easy, but it's all so worthwhile. And when you have an environment that supports private enterprise, and small businesses in particular, because small businesses will always be the driver of innovation. They will always drive our economy. I love our big companies that they come here, and I'm very grateful for all of them. They're phenomenal. We have the best. But small businesses always will be the ones that really do the bulk of the lifting, the heavy lifting for our economy. And so we're going to always continue to be the home of American business for not just American big business, but for American small businesses as well, right? And that all goes... It really all ties in to the fact that at the end of the day, here we are in 2026. We know we face real challenge around the world. We know that we are the most blessed people on God's earth, despite our challenges. And the reality is that we just got to continue to lead and execute in Texas, because the future of America depends on a bright red Texas that stands up and fights and pushes back on craziness and drives a message of liberty and opportunity and freedom. And that's really how I look at the world, that Texas really drives the future of this country.
Yeah.
And, the world will go in the way that the United States does, right? But I think if we do it right in Texas, I believe the 21st century will be the American century, just like the 20th was.
Yeah.
But it will be because Texas has led.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That almost feels like an ender, but I have one more question because that was so good. I'm sure we'll clip that later and be playing that for a while.
I don't know about that.
But I want to look forward to the 90th, right? So that's coming up. And at lunch today, I told people, I was like, the work for the 90th doesn't start in January of 2027. It's already well begun.
Absolutely.
And can you talk a little bit, obviously, now with you leading the transportation committee, but what are the things that you're looking for so that Texas keeps leading the way and shining a light for the rest of the country? And what are you trying to get done in the 90th?
Well, look, what an honor to be appointed by the Lieutenant Governor to lead transportation in the Texas Senate. It's an enormous responsibility to make certain that 31 million Texans have adequate mobility, not just adequate, frankly, but superior mobility options, that they're able to get home to their families in the evening, that they're able to get to work on time so they can get home in the evening on time. And they can do it safely, right? There's nothing more important than safety. I mean, all those years, I remember when that long ago that my kids were learning to drive and the fear that you had as a parent of putting your kids on the road. And so I understand all that firsthand as a parent.
I only have an 8th grader. That's my oldest is 8th grader. And I'm like, ooh.
Enjoy a few more years of peace before you got to worry about that.
I'm going to give her my truck and put like a big cattle guard on the front.
Cattle guards, big rubber bumpers, everything, right? Do it all, brother, right? But the point being is that transportation is a very serious issue. And I think we need to take it very seriously. We need to make certain that we are adequately funding transportation, frankly. One of the things that we're dealing with, and we need to be just very candid and open with the people of Texas about, is that a lot of the money that we've appropriated to transportation funding over the years doesn't have the punching power it did just a few years ago because of the ridiculous overspending of the Biden administration. And so because we're dealing with that inflationary environment, a dollar, instead of getting $1 worth of impact on construction for a new road, we're maybe only getting 60 or 65 cents worth. So you think about that. And so we got to look seriously at funding and all those kind of things that we're doing for transportation and our infrastructure broadly. We made huge investments last session in water infrastructure. And so you think about water and roads, you think about all the investments we made on the grid. These are the blocking and tackling. And so we just got to continue to execute there well. And look, I want to just tell you that all of our security concerns are put to bed. We don't have to worry about anything else. We need to continue to be vigilant in those areas, right? We have to be vigilant in those areas. But we also need to continue to take care of rural Texas. I think it's very important that we recognize that we have so many incredible conservatives around the state, but disproportionately, a lot of them live in rural Texas. And we need to make certain that Texas is serving them as well. That we're taking care of law enforcement in those rural areas, that we're taking care of rural health care in those areas, that we're really addressing holistically the needs of the people of Texas, if that makes sense, right? But at the end of the day, for me, we'll always be about safety and security, first and foremost. Have we done everything in our power to protect all 31 million people here tonight, first and foremost? And then from there, how do we create all these economic opportunities and how do we maximize liberty for our people? And so the package for me, my bill package, will be very focused on trying to find opportunities along those lines that maximize liberty and freedom, to address these issues of improving healthcare more intelligently, frankly, where we can do it more efficiently and more effectively than I think in many ways what this Obamacare nightmare has been shoved down on us over the last several years. There's still opportunities to improve that framework, in my opinion, for Texas. Like I said earlier, we've got to address this affordability issue. You'll see us very focused on how we address the issues of homeowners insurance, because it's really hurting people.
It is.
People are getting relief on the property tax side, and we've got to do a whole lot more. But then when they see this horrifically larger, bill for their home insurance, I mean, it's daunting.
And
it's
confused
overwhelming.
too, because most of that's going into escrow, and they're like, wait, I thought my property taxes went down, but my escrow payments, the same or going
100%.
up.
And Greg, look, I mean, over the years, I'll get those kind of commentaries. You're not shooting me straight. I don't see that I'm getting any savings, and I understand why they feel that way, right? So we've got to address all of those things in a very intelligent way. But I think under the Lieutenant Governor's leadership in the Senate, we passed a lot of great bills last session. We did a lot of very good things that we're implementing still at the moment. But I think these are the big pieces: focusing on affordability, focusing on infrastructure, making certain that our workforce is second to none, focusing on mobility, focusing on security. Those will be big issues for me in the package. And of course, as sharing transportation, we'll get everything, right? We'll talk about the future of autonomous vehicles a whole lot. We'll talk about, what's going to happen with, certain corridors that are prone to more congestion than others. As the AI guy in the legislature and in the Senate over the years, I want to see us use AI intelligently to improve congestion and to better construct and design the roads of tomorrow. So we get more bang for the buck. For the taxpayer, right? Because it's not our money; it's the taxpayer's money.
That's right.
And then outside of that, I just think AI can save lives and improve outcomes. To lose one precious human life, one Texan a year is one too many, and I never want to see that happen. Our numbers broadly have come down on safety on our roads over the years, but we got a whole lot of work to do in that regard to do better. We can always do better, and I think AI, it's a perfect use case to help us get there, if that makes sense. So I'm excited about those kind of opportunities, but that's what I really call the blocking and tackling of government, right?
Yeah.
This is fundamental.
Yeah.
And but we have to execute on it, right?
It's not sexy, but as I said earlier, like, people notice it when it's not working right. And so
100%.
Yeah.
And then, we talked about obviously what's going on with employment opportunities. I want to absolutely continue to spark and drive opportunities in the financial services sector. I'm not going to say, hey, we got the best environment in the world now against Delaware and for listings against New York, and say we're done. I'm going to continue to press further. I will carry a lot of legislation in those areas that are new, creative ideas that continue to accelerate what we're doing in all these areas, right? To accelerate our dominance, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And let me tell you something else. Another big topic we don't talk about enough, in my opinion, is how do we address a framework of protecting us against our adversaries that are coming, that are stealing intellectual property from our universities, right? I've carried a lot of bills over the years to protect our IP in our universities. Back in 2021, I was the author with my friend Senator Campbell, then as a House member, of the Texas Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act. And that was all about protecting our electric grid and water systems and communication systems from foreign rogue ownership from China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, just like we extended this last session with regard to land. But you'll see me also do a whole lot more in that area where we basically need a CFIUS type structure. For those that are in national security circles, they know what that means. But I want Texas to have its own CFIUS structure that we protect and we know what's going on, not just with regard to land and these infrastructure plays that I've already been blessed to carry and lead on, but with regard to all the other supply chains that are vital to our life and our liberty and our existence. We have to take all those things very, very seriously as well. And at the same time, this next session, we need to continue to fight for traditional values. We need to fight for our traditional faith and family values. We need to continue to drive an agenda around religious freedom. We need to continue to drive an agenda around the importance of the family as the fundamental building block of society, from which all of our blessings really come from, blessed from Almighty God. But if we don't understand the family as the fundamental building block of society, government can't solve our problems.
That's right.
Right? We need our faith community. We need philanthropy. We need business people. And we need strong families. And we need to continue to invest in strong families. And that's one of the things I've loved over the years in working with TPPF is that, you guys care about those issues too, like 100%. I do. You care about strong families and faith, just like you care about good economic development practices. And that's why we work together so beautifully on all this.
They feed into each other.
Absolutely. It's all, to me, fits together like one integrated package, right? And we're talking about border security and all the things we do there. It's all integrated, right? I mean, and so we just got to understand that's the framework, that's the design, that's what you all believe at TPPF. It's what I believe as your senator, and what we'll continue to work on together to make certain that we keep Texas the most extraordinary place on the planet Earth.
I love it. Well, Senator, as I'm driving to Fort Worth this weekend to see my parents and have a little celebration, I'll be taking notes on what you can improve on I-35, okay? And so I'll come back with hopefully...
You let me know. All my friends and family are giving me these little notes, right, about what's going on this road, that road, everywhere in the state. So we've got work to do. And 35 is tough, as you know.
It
right?
is.
And it's perpetual. It never stops.
Yeah, that's why I usually take the Vaughn lane, because it's way less stressful.
Well, they're a great organization. They do a heck of a job, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Senator Parker, thank you. Thank you for all you're doing for Texas. Thank you for what you do for your district. Thank you for being a good friend and mentor to me. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for your leadership. You're doing an incredible job at TPPF. We're so proud of you. And it's such an incredible organization, so well respected across the country. And we're grateful for your leadership and all of your team doing amazing jobs. You're a great partner to the legislature. And we just want to continue to fortify that and grow that in the years ahead. And excited about all the opportunities, right, to continue to keep Texas so extraordinary. So appreciate you so much.
Texas will continue to lead, especially with your leadership.
We will always lead. Absolutely. Amen. By God's grace, we will always lead.
Amen. Amen. Oh, I feel like I'm in church. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Revival. I said the Arena. And I'm so blessed to be joined by a good friend, Senator Parker. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see y'all on the next episode.